Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
Today we're stepping into a story that it looks like a sci-fi thriller on the surface, but it's really this profound look at systems theory. We're talking about Stephen King's massive novel, 112263.
And before anyone thinks we're about to spend the next 40 minutes on, the grassy knoll or magic bullets, let me just stop you right there. There's not a conspiracy theory deep dive. We're not here to talk ballistics or the CIA, even though, yeah, that's all part of the set.
The furniture in the room, sure.
Exactly. We're here to tackle the central question of this book, which is, I think it's just fascinating. Can a complex system like human history actually be engineered? Can you fix it by changing one little thing without the whole machine just falling apart?
It's the ultimate test case, isn't it? The great man theory versus, well, systems theory. We so often look at history through this very linear lens.
Oh, all the time.
We think, oh, if only this one thing hadn't happened, we'd be in a utopia. If only the Archduke's driver hadn't taken that wrong turn in Sarajevo. We just assume there's a cleaner, better timeline waiting for us just one little edit away.
It's the undo button fantasy. I mean, we all have it. You say something dumb in a meeting and you think, God, if I could just go back 5 minutes.
Right.
But when you apply that thinking to the whole world, to geopolitics, that's when it gets dangerous.
And that's exactly what 101.12.263 argues against. It says history is not a straight line. It's not a passive canvas you can just paint over. It says history is a complex, interdependent organism. And the key thing is it's an organism that actively fights back. It has an immune system.
An immune system, I like that. It's basically demonstrating homeostasis, but for time itself.
Precisely. The system trying to keep its temperature stable.
So let's set the stage a little for anyone who hasn't tackled this, 800-page beast of a book?
Yeah, it's a big one.
We have our main character, Jake Epping. He's just a regular guy, an English teacher in Maine, 2011. And his friend, Al Templeton, who runs the local diner, he drops this absolute bombshell on him.
A literal portal in the pantry.
In the diner pantry, yeah. A portal that leads to one specific moment. 11:45 a.m. on September 9, 1958. Every single time.
And a lot of time travel stories just kind of hand-wave the mechanics, but King sets up these really specific rules, these constraints that define the entire system.
And they're so important.
They're vital. They're the physics of this whole thing. So rule 1. No matter how long you stay in the past, an hour, 5 years, whatever, when you come back to 2011, only 2 minutes have passed.
Which is just an incredible idea. It creates this total dissociation. You could live an entire life, come back, and your coffee's still warm on the counter.
But rule number 2, this is the real game changer for systems analysis. Every single time you go back through that portal, it is a hard reset.
A complete wipe.
A complete wipe. It's Groundhog Day rules. If you go back, live for 5 years, save 100 people, come back to 2011, and then you realize, oh, I forgot my wallet, and you pop back for a second, everything you did is gone, erased. You're right back at 11:58 a.m., September 9, 1958.
And that just raises the stakes immensely. You can't iterate. You can't just, make a small change, pop back, check your work, and then go tweak it.
No, you get one shot. You have to do it all in one run.
So Al, the diner owner, he's been using this portal for, honestly, the most realistic thing a small business owner would do with a time machine.
Right. Low-level arbitrage.
He's buying cheap ground beef in the 50s to sell his burgers in 2011. It's brilliant.
It's practical. But Al is dying of lung cancer. He can't continue his real project. So he recruits Jake for what he calls the Great Mission. He wants Jake to go back, live in the past for 5 years, from 58 to 63, and stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Okay, let's dig into Al's logic here for a second, because I think it's flawed from the very beginning, but it's also a very, very common way people think. Al is convinced the JFK assassination was a watershed moment. He thinks if JFK lives, the Vietnam War never escalates.
Right. And if Vietnam doesn't escalate, then the huge cultural divide of the 60s is lessened. Maybe RFK doesn't get shot. Maybe Martin Luther King Jr. doesn't get shot.
It's a classic linear causal chain. A leads to B leads to C. He thinks if he just removes one bad variable, Lee Harvey Oswald, he can stop this whole cascade of awful outcomes.
He sees a straight line. Saving one man saves, millions of lives.
But isn't that incredibly naive? Al is a smart guy, but he's totally ignoring the massive geopolitical forces already in motion. Does he really think taking out one politician stops the Cold War? or the civil rights movement.
That is the trap. It is the absolute hubris of the great man theory of history. This idea that history is shaped almost entirely by a few key heroes or villains.
Yeah.
Al sees JFK as the keystone in the arch. You save the keystone, the whole structure stands. But systems theory tells us that the arch is held up by tension from all sides, from countless different stones. Al's looking at history like it's a story you can edit, not a system you have to manage.
So Jake, he's skeptical, but he takes the bait. He steps into 1958, and this is where the book really opens up, because before we even get close to the assassination, we have to talk about what you call the trap of immersion.
Yes, because he has to live there. He doesn't just show up in Dallas a week before the event. He has to live for 5 years.
And this is where King's critique is so effective. He creates this land of egoic. When Jake first arrives, the past is so seductive.
It really is. The food tastes better. It's full of sugar and real fat. The root beer is amazing. The air is cleaner. People leave their doors unlocked. There's this sense of community that Jake feels is completely gone from his world in 2011.
I found that part so compelling, but also dangerous.
Yeah.
It feels like King is baiting us, the readers, with our own nostalgia.
He absolutely is. Jake loves the music, the cars, the lack of cell phones. He starts to feel like he belongs there more than he belongs in the future.
But King baits the trap, and then he springs it.
He forces Jake and us to see the systemic failures of that time. It's not just malt shops and sock hop. It's colored bathrooms. It's the casual, deeply embedded racism that Jake, as a white man, can see and be sickened by, but doesn't have to suffer from directly.
And the misogyny. It's brutal. There's a whole subplot with the janitor's family and later with Sadie, Jake's love interest. And the violence against women is just treated by society, by the police, as a private family matter.
Exactly. The system of 1958 has this high community cohesion, but it's built on a foundation of rigid exclusion and hierarchy. If you're not the right color or the right gender, or if you step out of line, that peaceful past is a nightmare.
It's the duality of the system. He loves the aesthetic, but he's constantly slammed with the structural rot underneath.
And speaking of love, we have to talk about Sadie Dunhill, the librarian Jake meets.
Yeah.
They fall in love, like real deep love. And this completely complicates the mission, because now Jake isn't just an outside agent. He's not an observer anymore. He's a participant.
It's a critical concept in systems thinking. Entanglement. You can't be inside a system without it changing you. Al's advice was, don't form attachments. But how is that possible for a human being over 5 years?
It's impossible. And the system, it's smart. It weaponizes that attachment.
This is what I call the hostage dynamic.
That's a perfect term for it. The system effectively takes Sadie hostage. As Jake gets closer to his goal, to changing the timeline, the system puts Sadie directly in harm's way.
It forces a trade-off. It's the macro mission save JFK versus the micro relationship save Sadie. And the system is just ruthless. It basically says, you want to play God with history? Fine. The price of admission is the person you love most.
Which leads us to the core thesis of the book, this one phrase that's repeated over and over again, like a mantra.
The past is obdurate.
The past is obdurate. It means stubborn, unyielding. But here, it's really a description of a defensive mechanism. King's basically describing homeostasis.
Right, like how your body regulates its temperature. It shivers when it's cold, sweats when it's hot. It tries to get back to normal.
Exactly. Jake is the stressor. He's the foreign body trying to change a key variable, and the system reacts to push him out, to return to its equilibrium.
And it's not subtle about it, is it? It starts small.
It does. When he tries to change something minor early on, like preventing a local hunting accident, the resistance is low level. You know, a car that won't start, a flat tire, a sudden stomach flu.
Little nudges. Things you can dismiss.
But as the stakes get higher, as he gets closer to that watershed moment of November 2010, 1963, the feedback loop gets exponentially stronger.
The universe stops nudging and it starts punching.
It becomes actively violent. It behaves like an immune system launching a full-scale attack on a virus. And Jake is the virus. The closer he gets to the book depository, the obstacles become catastrophic. An axle on his car just snaps at high speed. People turn on him for no reason.
There's that scene where he gets beaten almost to death, giving him amnesia
Yeah.
right before the key date. It doesn't feel like bad luck. It feels targeted. The system is physically trying to take him off the board.
And King adds another fascinating layer to this resistance. He calls it harmonics.
Okay, I struggled with this a bit. Harmonics sounds like music theory or something. What is he getting at there?
In a way, yeah. It's a metaphor for resonance. As Jake is in the past, pushing against the timeline, he starts to notice these weird repetitions, echoes.
Like what?
The name Jimla shows up in graffiti, and then a kid says it as a nonsense word. He keeps seeing the same specific car, a white over red Plymouth Fury, at these critical, dangerous moments, years apart. Phrases and songs recur in uncanny ways.
That's like a glitch in the matrix.
It's exactly that. It's a signal that the very structure of time is vibrating under the tension he's creating. These aren't just coincidences. King is suggesting that reality has a certain structural integrity, like a bridge. And Jake is marching across that bridge out of step, creating a resonance that's threatening to shake the whole thing apart.
The harmonics are the sound of the strings of reality groaning.
Groaning under the weight of his interference, yes.
So you've got the physical pushback, you've got his personal life with Sadie being used against him, and you've got these structural echoes. But Jake is obdurate too. He pushes through.
He does. Which brings us to the actual mission and its own moral dilemma. The target? Lee Harvey Oswald.
The Minority Report problem.
Exactly. The ethics of pre-crime. Al was convinced Oswald acted alone, but Jake has to prove it. So he spends months living in this miserable little apartment below Oswald, listening in.
It's so creepy and voyeuristic. He's just listening to Oswald beat his wife, listening to his pathetic delusions of grandeur.
But the question is always there. Can you execute a man for a crime he hasn't actually committed yet, even if you're 99.9% sure he's going to do it?
And the system plays on that uncertainty, right? It throws up fog. There are moments Jake starts to think, maybe it wasn't him? Maybe there was a conspiracy?
It tries to confuse the agent.
Yeah.
But in the end, Jake decides Oswald is the variable, the sole variable to be removed.
And spoiler alert for a book that's been out for over a decade. He does it. Jake succeeds. He stops Oswald. JFK lives.
The great man is saved, and this is the moment where the linear thinker, where Al would expect the mission accomplished banner to unfurl.
Intent equals outcome. We save the good king, so the kingdom must be saved.
But when Jake returns to the portal and steps out into 2011, it's not a utopia.
No, it's a nightmare.
It's a world that has undergone total catastrophic systemic collapse. And this is the most important part of the entire analysis. It's not just that things are, a little bit worse. It's that the entire complex adaptive system of human civilization has failed.
Describe what he sees, because it's genuinely shocking.
It is a post-apocalyptic ruin. The air is toxic, radioactive, infrastructure has crumbled. He learns that George Wallace became president. The civil rights movement was brutally crushed because JFK, who is no longer a martyr and frankly not the legislative genius LBJ was, couldn't get the Civil Rights Act passed.
So the political situation is a disaster.
A complete disaster. The Vietnam War didn't end. The instability just shifted. It led to a series of nuclear exchanges. The world is broken.
But wait, it's more than just bad politics, isn't it? The physical world itself is broken.
Yes, that's the terrifying part. The physics of reality have broken down. There are constant, massive earthquakes, sinkholes swallowing towns. The sky is the wrong color.
Why? I mean, how does saving one politician in 1963 cause earthquakes in 2011? That feels like a bit of a leap.
And this is where we meet the green card man. Throughout the book, Jake has seen these weird, disheveled men hanging around the portal.
The card men.
Right. In the original timeline, they had yellow cards. They were just sort of broken. But in this ruin 2011, he meets the green card man, who is lucid, and he's basically the system administrator.
Or the janitor of time. He's there to clean up the messes.
And he explains the mechanics. He describes reality as being made of strings. Every trip through the portal creates a new string, a new timeline. But when you change a massive watershed moment like the Kennedy assassination, you aren't just snipping one thread. You're adding so much tension, so many new variables and causal chains that the whole bundle of strings snaps. The instrument itself, reality, shatters.
So the earthquakes aren't a punishment. They're a symptom of systemic overload.
Precisely. It's about energy and complexity. The bad timeline, our timeline, where JFK died, was, for all its faults, a stable configuration. It had settled. By forcing what he thought was a good outcome, Jake pumped a catastrophic amount of energy and complexity into the system. He created a reality that required too much constant maintenance to even exist.
The earthquakes are just reality tearing at the seams.
The tension is too high. The whole thing comes apart.
That is a terrifying thought. That the tragedy of 11/22/63 was a load-bearing wall for the rest of our history. You knock it out, and the whole roof caves in.
It completely refutes the great man theory and replaces it with complexity theory. Al thought he was fixing a machine. He thought, replace this one broken gear, Oswald, and the machine runs smoothly. But history isn't a machine, it's an ecosystem. And Jake introduced an invasive species, the survival of JFK, and that species choked out everything else and caused a total ecological collapse.
It's the cobra effect on a planetary scale.
Oh, a perfect analogy.
The British in India wanted to get rid of cobras, so they offered a bounty for dead ones.
Right. And people, being people, started breeding cobras to collect the bounty. So when the government figured it out and canceled the program, the breeders just released all their now worthless cobras, and the snake population exploded.
The intervention made the problem massively worse, and Jake's intervention, which he thought would save lives, ended up costing billions.
It highlights that critical difference between something that's complicated and something that's complex. A jet engine is complicated. It has a lot of parts. But if you have the blueprint, you can fix it. An ecosystem, or human history, is complex. You can't predict the downstream effects of a single action because all the variables are interconnected and they adapt.
So Jake is standing in this radioactive wasteland of his own making. He broke the world. What's the solution?
There's only one, the reset button. He has to go back to 1958 one last time.
And just stepping through will wipe the slate clean.
Exactly. But it also means he has to undo his work. He has to let it happen. He has to let Kennedy die.
And here's the heartbreak. Because resetting the timeline, it resets everything. It resets the apocalypse, thank God. But it also resets Sadie.
He never meets her. She never falls in love with him. Their life together is erased. The green card man makes it brutally clear. You can try to change the world, or you can have a life. You can't have both.
So the ultimate heroic act in this story isn't charging in to fight the bad guy. It's choosing to do nothing. It's the courage of non-intervention.
It's a complete inversion of the hero's journey. The hero doesn't save the world by changing it. He saves the world by accepting its tragedy. He has to realize that his presence, his intervention, is the pathogen. And to restore the health of the system, he has to remove himself.
That's a heavy philosophical pill to swallow. It sort of gets at that idea of amor fati.
Yes, amor fati, Nietzsche's idea, the love of one's fate. It's not about being passive or resigned. It's about actively embracing the reality you have, the good and the bad as necessary. The book argues that we have to accept the imperfections and the tragedies of our history because they are, for better or worse, the structural components of our present.
It's a chilling thought, though. Does that mean we're living in the best of all possible worlds? That feels a little apologetic. Like, oh, well, it's a shame about all that suffering, but at least we have smartphones.
I don't think it's saying it's the best world in a moral sense. It's saying it's the stable world. It's the one that survived. The book suggests our reality, with all its deep flaws, has weathered the storms of causality and is still standing. The alternative shown to us isn't a utopia. The alternative is the abyss.
It definitely makes you look at modern interventions differently. I mean, we see this constantly in tech and policy, this desire to disrupt a system to make it better, but with almost no understanding of why the system worked that way in the first place.
It's Chesterton's fence.
Exactly. Don't tear down a fence until you understand why it was put there. Al and Jake tore down the fence of 11263 without ever asking why history might have built it.
And we do that all the time. We pull on threads without seeing the whole tapestry. We think we're playing chess, but we're actually yanking on the support cables of a suspension bridge.
So what's the real takeaway for us? We're not time travelers. What do we do with this?
I think it's a profound lesson in humility. It's about respecting the sheer complexity of the systems we live in. It suggests that real, lasting progress isn't about finding that one silver bullet solution. It's about the slow, difficult, unglamorous work of understanding the whole system, not just the one part you don't like.
And it's a warning against nostalgia, too. The past wasn't better. It was just a different set of trade-offs with different structural failures.
Absolutely. We can't go back, we can only move forward, and we have to do it knowing our actions will have consequences we can't possibly foresee. The butterfly effect isn't just a cool sci-fi concept. It's a description of moral responsibility in an interconnected world.
And in the end, the emotional core comes back. Jake does it, he resets the timeline, he comes back to 2011, and the world is our world. It's okay, but he's alone.
He is, but he looks up Sadie. She's an old woman now, she doesn't know him. But she's had a good life, a full life. He gets to see that.
And that one dance. They have that one dance together at the end, a sort of echo of a life they never had.
It's such a beautiful, melancholy ending. It confirms that even if we can't control the macro system, the micro connections we make within it, love, kindness, a dance with a stranger, those things are real. They might not stop a war, but they're what make the world worth saving in the first place.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. It's a book that starts with cheap burgers in a diner and ends with the fundamental nature of reality itself. A huge warning label for anyone who thinks they can fix the world with a single edit.
A journey worth taking, for sure. Just, maybe keep your hands inside the vehicle at all times.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind crisis and perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.